The calm before the storm. The vast expanse of space stretched out beyond Jupiter's looming shadow. It was a quiet place, cold and empty, a void that no one ever paid much attention to. The alien fleets, with their advanced ships and terrifying firepower, had no reason to look here. They were too busy celebrating their dominance across the galaxy. The Galactic Council believed that humanity was insignificant, just a small blip in the grand scheme of things. But in the dark corners of space, Earth had a secret, one that was about to change everything. In the hidden depths of Jupiter's moon system, humanity had been silently preparing. The fleet was vast, far beyond what the rest of the galaxy knew. Ancient ships, left dormant for decades, were brought back to life. The technology they carried was advanced, more so than even the most sophisticated alien systems. But no one knew. Humanity's fleet had been kept in the shadows for one reason: the perfect moment to strike. The crew of the flagship, the Intrepid, was in high spirits. They knew what was at stake. Their mission was clear: take back the galaxy, defend their home, and show the universe that Earth was far from insignificant. They were led by Admiral Catherine Riker, a veteran of countless battles who had always believed humanity had something more to offer. Now, as they prepared for the assault, she couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to unfold. "Status report, Lieutenant," Admiral Riker called, her voice firm but calm. Lieutenant Jameson, stationed at the bridge, looked at the screens with intensity. The crew had been waiting for this moment for years, and now it was finally here. "Admiral, all systems are ready. Fleet is in position. We are awaiting the signal." Riker nodded, her gaze fixed on the view screen in front of her. The dark shadow of Jupiter loomed ahead. It was almost as if the planet was hiding them, sheltering their fleet from the eyes of the aliens. It felt like a sign, a final moment before everything would change. The silence on the bridge was heavy, filled with anticipation. On the far side of Jupiter's shadow, the enemy fleets were unaware. Their arrogance had blinded them. The Galactic Empire had taken control of vast stretches of the galaxy, conquering worlds, and wiping out civilizations that dared to oppose them. But they never considered Earth a threat. They dismissed humanity as primitive and weak, a species they could easily crush underfoot. But they were wrong. As the Intrepid glided through the cold expanse, Riker thought back to the history of Earth. It had been a long road to get here. The early battles against the alien invaders had been brutal. The first waves of conflict had almost destroyed humanity, but Earth's resilience shone through. They adapted, they learned, and they fought back harder than anyone ever imagined. And now, their hidden fleet, a force never before seen by the aliens, would rise up to make them pay for their underestimation. Riker's eyes narrowed as she watched the displays. Every ship in the fleet was ready, waiting for the signal to strike. Each vessel carried humans who had sacrificed everything for this moment. They had trained for years, honing their skills, perfecting their technology. They had been hidden for too long, but now the time had come to show the galaxy that humanity was not to be taken lightly. "We've waited long enough," Riker said, standing up from her command chair. "Prepare for phase 1 of the plan. Inform the fleet. We're going to make them regret ever underestimating us." The tension was palpable now, the crew working in a synchronized rhythm, each person focused on their role. Riker could feel the energy building, but there was a calmness to it. They were ready, and there was no turning back now. The universe would soon know the power of Earth's hidden fleet. In the distance, the alien forces continued their march, unaware of the storm that was about to hit them. They had no idea that Earth, a planet they had dismissed as weak, was about to unleash a force unlike anything they had ever faced. As the last moments of calm stretched out, Riker took a deep breath. She knew this would be the fight of her life. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for Earth's place in the galaxy. The future of humanity depended on what happened next. And the storm was coming. the calm before the storm had ended. The hidden fleet's rise. The silence of space was broken by the hum of engines, a soft but steady sound that filled the bridge of the Intrepid. As Earth's hidden fleet began to move, its ships glided silently, like shadows moving in the dark. The crew's eyes were glued to the monitors, watching as the fleet slowly assembled in the shadow of Jupiter, hidden from the prying eyes of the alien invaders. It was the perfect camouflage. Jupiter's massive size made it nearly impossible for anyone to detect the fleet unless they were looking directly at the right place. Admiral Riker stood with her hands clasped behind her back, observing the final preparations. The moment of truth was nearly here. The fleet had been in hiding for years, but this was not just about showing force. This was about taking back their home, about proving to the galaxy that humanity was not some weak species to be conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with. "Admiral, all ships are in position," reported Commander Paddle, her voice steady, but filled with a hint of excitement. She had been with Riker through thick and thin, and she knew how much this moment meant. "Our weapons are primed and ready. We just need your word." Riker nodded, but her eyes remained fixed on the dark expanse before them. The alien fleets, once full of arrogance and pride, were spread out across the system, unaware of what was coming. They had underestimated humanity for far too long. But in the shadows of Jupiter, the tables were about to turn. "They won't know what hit them," Riker murmured to herself. She had no doubt that this was the right moment. Earth's fleet had been built in secret, away from the eyes of the Galactic Council, and now it was time to show the universe just how wrong they had been. The Intrepid, the lead ship of the fleet, was a massive vessel, its design sleek but powerful. It was an ancient craft, resurrected and updated with the best Earth technology. The fleet consisted of dozens of ships, each one a testament to humanity's resilience and ingenuity. Their weapons were far more advanced than anything the alien forces had encountered before. "Ready on your mark, Admiral," Commander Patel said again. The tension in the air was thick as the crew awaited the command to strike. Riker turned to face her crew, her voice calm but commanding. "This is it, the moment we've been waiting for. We're going to hit them hard. Show them that humanity is not some insignificant species. We have power, and we will take back what's ours." With a sharp nod, Riker gave the order. "Deploy the fleet. Engage at full force." The moment she spoke, the fleet surged forward, its ships breaking from the shadows of Jupiter in a coordinated strike. The vastness of space seemed to shrink as the fleet moved together, their engines roaring to life. It was a beautiful sight, humanity's finest ships, arrayed in perfect formation, each one a symbol of what Earth could accomplish when united. The alien ships, scattered across the system, were still unaware. They had no reason to think that anything could threaten their dominance. They had wiped out countless civilizations, crushed every resistance they'd encountered. But this time would be different. This time, they were facing humanity. Riker watched as the fleet broke out of the shadow and headed toward the first wave of enemy ships. Their sensors would soon detect the approaching fleet, but by then, it would be too late. The humans had the element of surprise, and they would use it to their advantage. The Intrepid was the first to lock onto its target. Riker's voice was steady as she gave the command. "Fire." A sudden flash lit up the darkness of space as the Intrepid unleashed its first volley of energy blasts. The alien ship it targeted was destroyed in an instant, its shields no match for the power of humanity's weaponry. The rest of the fleet followed suit, unleashing a devastating barrage of energy that shook the very fabric of space. In the distance, the alien ships began to react, scrambling to defend themselves. But it was already too late. The element of surprise had worked, and humanity's fleet was pushing forward, cutting through the enemy like a hot knife through butter. The alien commanders, shocked by the sudden assault, were scrambling to organize a defense. But they were disoriented, confused. They had never expected Earth to have such advanced technology, much less the ability to strike with such precision and power. "We've breached their outer defenses, Admiral," Commander Patel reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "Their ships are falling apart under our attack." Riker allowed herself a small smile. The battle had just begun, and humanity had already proven their strength. "This is just the beginning. We're not stopping until every last one of their fleets is destroyed." The crew cheered, their spirits lifted by the sight of the alien forces falling before them. The shockwave of humanity's power rippled across the battlefield, and for the first time, the aliens realized that they had made a grave mistake. In the darkness of Jupiter's shadow, humanity's fleet had risen, and there was no turning back. The alien fleet's panic. The alien fleet, once scattered across the vast expanse of space, was now under fire from all directions. The suddenness of the attack left them stunned, their confidence quickly fading into panic. The once proud ships of the invaders, believed to be the ultimate force in the galaxy, now found themselves scrambling to defend against an enemy they had never considered a real threat. Admiral Riker's face remained calm as she watched the destruction unfold on the monitors before her. The alien ships, still recovering from the initial barrage, were trying to form a defense, but it was clear they were outmatched. The humans had the element of surprise, and their fleet was unlike anything the aliens had faced before. Commander Patel's voice broke the silence. "Admiral, their shields are failing. We're punching through their defenses faster than we expected." Riker's eyes narrowed as she saw the chaos unfolding on the screen. The alien ships were trying to regroup, but they were disorganized. Some attempted to retreat, while others tried to retaliate, firing blindly into the dark void of space. But no amount of desperation could save them now. "Keep the pressure on," Riker ordered. "We can't let them recover. Focus fire on their command ship." The Intrepid and the rest of the fleet moved with precision, targeting the alien command vessel at the heart of their forces. The battle was only beginning, but Riker knew this was a crucial moment. If they could cripple the command ship, they could throw the rest of the alien fleet into disarray. "Ready weapons," she said, her voice calm despite the intensity of the situation. "Target their engines and fire." The Intrepid's cannons lit up, sending powerful blasts toward the heart of the alien fleet. The alien command ship, a massive vessel that once commanded respect across the galaxy, was now in the crosshairs. The shields flared, struggling to hold against the energy pulses, but it was clear the aliens were no longer in control. The human fleet had taken the upper hand. The enemy ships scattered in panic, trying to escape the onslaught. Some tried to counterattack, but the humans had already anticipated their moves. Earth's fleet, with its superior tactics and technology, outmaneuvered the invaders at every turn. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Riker allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. "The command ship is down to 30% power," she noted. "They're losing control." Commander Patel nodded, her eyes focused on the chaos unfolding before them. "They're trying to regroup, but it's too late. Their formations are falling apart." The once formidable alien fleet, which had advanced so far into human space, was now in disarray. The human fleet, though smaller in numbers, was far more organized, and their technology was proving far superior. The aliens' arrogance and underestimation of humanity had cost them dearly. "Admiral," Patel said, "the enemy's ships are retreating. They're abandoning their position." Riker's gaze hardened. "Let them run. They won't get far. We'll follow them to the ends of the galaxy if we have to." Humanity's fleet, once thought to be a mere collection of outdated ships and forgotten relics, was now turning the tide of the battle. The alien invaders, who had once believed themselves unstoppable, were now running for their lives, their confidence shattered. As the enemy fleet attempted to retreat, the human fleet stayed hot on their heels, pushing forward with relentless force. The chase had begun, and there was no turning back now. Riker glanced out the window, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. The battle was far from over, but this was a pivotal moment. The galaxy would never forget this day, the day humanity stood up and proved that even in the darkest of times, they could rise and fight back. The shadow of Jupiter had concealed them. But now Earth's fleet was emerging into the light, a force the galaxy would have to reckon with. "Prepare for the final push," Riker commanded. "This ends today." The hunt intensifies. The chase was on. The alien fleet, now battered and retreating, scrambled to escape the wrath of humanity's fleet. But no matter how fast they tried to move, the human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and driven by a singular burning purpose: revenge. Earth's fleet, once thought to be a ragtag group of survivors, had become a force of nature, relentless and unstoppable. Admiral Riker stood at the command console of the Intrepid, her gaze fixed on the swirling chaos of the enemy fleet before her. The alien ships, now disorganized and panicking, tried to break apart into smaller groups, hoping to escape the humans' grasp. But every move they made was countered by the precision of humanity's forces. The Intrepid and its fellow ships were closing in fast. "Prepare for the final assault," Riker ordered, her voice cold and calculated. Commander Patel's eyes were fixed on the screens, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Admiral, their flagship is trying to break off. They're sending out distress signals." Riker narrowed her eyes. "Let them signal for help. It won't matter. Their time is up." The enemy flagship was massive, heavily armed, and feared across the galaxy. For the aliens, it represented power and control. But now, it was retreating in a desperate attempt to save itself. The sight only fueled Riker's resolve. "Ready all weapons," Riker barked. "We finish this now." The Intrepid and the rest of the fleet surged forward, their weapons primed and ready. They had made their move from the shadow of Jupiter, and now the galaxy was seeing the true might of humanity. The pursuit was swift, and the alien ships were growing desperate, their formations breaking down further with every passing minute. "We've got them," Patel muttered under her breath as the enemy flagship drew closer. "They're running out of space." Riker's face remained a mask of focus as she continued to issue orders, guiding the Intrepid closer to the alien flagship. It was only a matter of time before humanity dealt the final blow. But the enemy wasn't going down without a fight. The flagship unleashed a volley of energy blasts, trying to slow the human advance. It was their last attempt at resistance. The blasts exploded against the shields of the human ships, causing small flashes of light, but the human fleet was built to withstand this. "Shields holding," Patel confirmed, her voice calm despite the rising tension. "They're trying to disable our systems, firing countermeasures now." The Intrepid's defensive systems flared to life, releasing a barrage of countermeasures that sent the alien blasts scattering harmlessly into space. It was clear now. The human fleet was prepared for everything. "We're closing in," Riker said, her tone steady but fierce. "This ends now." The alien flagship, realizing the situation was hopeless, attempted to fire one last desperate barrage directly at the Intrepid, hoping to take down their leader. But it was too little, too late. Riker's fleet was too close, too prepared, and too angry. With a final, resounding strike, the Intrepid unleashed its full arsenal. The attack was devastating. Energy blasts collided with the flagship's shields, then pierced through them, tearing through the alien ship's hull. It was as if the very might of humanity had been unleashed in a single, unstoppable wave. On the bridge, Riker watched as the flagship's massive form shuddered under the impact. Then, with a final explosion, the alien ship was no more. "Flagship down," Commander Patel said, her voice tinged with awe. Riker exhaled slowly, the weight of the victory sinking in. But there was no time to celebrate. The rest of the enemy fleet was still on the run, and Earth's fleet had to press the advantage. "Keep pushing forward," Riker commanded. "We finish what we started." The battle was far from over, but the tide had turned decisively in humanity's favor. The alien invaders had been bold in their attack, but they had underestimated the humans. Now, they were paying the price. The shadow of Jupiter, once a place of hiding and waiting, had turned into the backdrop of humanity's triumph. Earth's fleet was no longer a scattered group of survivors. It was a well-oiled machine, unstoppable and determined to reclaim their home and make their enemies pay for their betrayal. Riker glanced at the retreating alien ships, their panic now palpable. The human fleet was closing in on the last remnants of the invaders, and this time there would be no escape. The hunt was intensifying, and the alien fleet had no place left to hide. "Prepare for the final wave," Riker ordered. "This is our victory." The human fleet surged forward, relentless and unstoppable. They had already shown their enemies the might of humanity, and there was no turning back now. The shadow of Jupiter had been their hiding place, but now it was the final witness to their rise. The tide turns. The alien fleet was on the verge of collapse. Humanity's fleet, once considered a shadow of desperation, had become a fierce, unstoppable force. The remnants of the invaders tried to regroup, but there was no escaping the inevitable. Earth's forces had made their mark, and now they were closing in for the kill. Admiral Riker stood in front of the massive holographic display on the bridge of the Intrepid, her eyes scanning the vast expanse of space. The enemy's formation was breaking apart, the once imposing armada now scattered and vulnerable. The human fleet had driven them into a corner, and their time was running out. "Status report," Riker demanded, her voice sharp but calm. Commander Patel was already at her station, tracking the last of the alien ships. "We've neutralized the flagship and most of their heavy warships. The remainder is attempting to flee to the outskirts of the system." "They won't make it," Riker replied, her tone unwavering. "Prepare for the final assault." As the Intrepid and the rest of Earth's fleet powered forward, the sight of the fleeing alien ships only fueled the fire within Riker and her crew. These invaders had come to Earth with plans of domination, expecting to wipe out humanity with ease. They had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. Now, they would pay the price. "Captain, their ships are scattering," Patel reported, her fingers moving quickly across the control panel. "They're trying to break through our lines." "It's too late for that," Riker muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. She had seen how the aliens fought. Frantic, disorganized, and desperate. They were losing their nerve. The human fleet was like a well-oiled machine, the coordination between ships flawless. With each passing moment, they closed the gap between themselves and the scattered remnants of the alien invaders. "Lock on their engines," Riker ordered, her eyes narrowing as she surveyed the remaining alien ships. "They can't run from us now." The Intrepid's powerful targeting systems honed in on the nearest alien vessel, a heavily damaged destroyer trying to escape. Riker's finger hovered over the command console, and for a split second, the entire bridge fell into a tense silence. "Fire when ready," Riker said, her voice steady. The silence was shattered as the Intrepid unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, hitting the alien destroyer squarely in its engines. The ship rocked violently, sparks flying from its hull as its engines went dark. The alien vessel, crippled and unable to continue, drifted helplessly in space. "Target neutralized," Patel confirmed. Riker nodded, her face cold and calculating. But there was no time to relish in the victory. The rest of the alien fleet was still a threat, and Earth's forces were not about to let them escape. "All ships follow the strategy." "No mercy," Riker commanded, her voice resolute. As the human fleet continued its pursuit, the once proud alien armada was now fragmented. Every ship that tried to flee met the same fate as the destroyer. Earth's fleet was methodical, relentless, and precise. The aliens had underestimated them, and now they were paying the price for their arrogance. Commander Patel glanced at the holographic display and frowned. "Admiral, one of their ships is trying to send a distress signal to their command ship." Riker didn't flinch. "Let them. There's no one left to answer." The remaining alien ships had nowhere to hide, no safe harbor to retreat to. Humanity's fleet had them cornered, and there was no escape from the wrath that was closing in. Riker's fingers hovered over the command console again, her decision clear. "Take them out, one by one." she ordered. The Intrepid's weapons fired in quick succession, hitting alien ships with surgical precision. It wasn't long before the last remnants of the enemy fleet were reduced to wreckage. There was no honor in their defeat, no room for pity. The invaders had come to Earth with violence in mind, and humanity had responded with unrelenting fury. As the final alien ship was destroyed, Riker allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. The battle was over, and humanity had emerged victorious. The aliens had been bold in their invasion, but they had underestimated humanity's capacity for survival. Now, they had paid the price. Riker looked out at the space before them, the dark expanse now silent and still. We've won. But this is just the beginning. There was no more to say. The crew of the Intrepid had done the impossible. They had pushed back a superior force and won. Humanity's fleet had changed the course of the battle and proven their place in the galaxy. But Riker knew this was only the first chapter of a larger war. The alien invaders were only one part of a much bigger universe, and with their first victory in hand, humanity would be ready to face whatever came next. The final blow. As the last of the alien ships crumbled into space dust, a calm silence washed over the battlefield. The once terrifying armada had been reduced to nothing more than scattered wreckage, the result of Earth's unwavering resolve. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, had fought with everything they had. And it had paid off. Admiral Riker stood at the helm of the Intrepid, looking at the lifeless remains of their invaders. Yet despite the victory, there was no sense of relief on her face. This battle had been won, but Riker knew that the war was far from over. The alien forces might have been defeated, but the galaxy was vast, and the threats to Earth were countless. "Report," she said, turning to Commander Patel, who was hunched over her console, eyes darting across the data streams flashing on the screen. Patel hesitated for a moment, clearly processing the damage the fleet had taken. "We've lost 2 frigates and 3 fighters. Our main ships are intact, but our resources are running low. We've used most of our ammunition in these skirmishes." Riker's gaze hardened. "Replenish supplies from the wreckage. We'll salvage what we can." "Understood, Admiral," Patel replied, quickly relaying the order to the fleet. But despite the victory, Riker's mind wasn't focused on the battle's aftermath. Something lingered at the back of her mind, something troubling. The aliens they had faced were only a small fraction of the enemy's full strength. They were only a scout force, a frontline strike to test humanity's resolve. It was when she looked to the empty stretch of space where the alien mothership had once loomed that Riker realized just how fragile their victory had been. The mothership, destroyed in the opening salvo, wasn't the true leader of this alien coalition. Earth had only fought the vanguard. "Admiral, we have a transmission." Lieutenant Dawson spoke up from the communications station, snapping Riker from her thoughts. "Put it through," Riker ordered. The holoprojector flickered to life, and the face of a high-ranking officer appeared. A dark, cloaked figure with a cold, calculating stare. The figure's eyes were hidden in shadow, but Riker could tell it wasn't a human. His presence was ominous, his voice deep and threatening. "You think you've won." The alien commander's voice boomed through the bridge. "This battle was nothing. Your victory is meaningless." Riker clenched her fists, but she didn't flinch. "Who are you?" The alien smirked, as if amused. "I am Salgar, commander of the Galactic Vanguard. Your tiny fleet has crushed my front lines, but you've only fought the beginning. We are not the last of our forces. You will never stand against the true might of the Galactic Council." "I beg to differ," Riker replied, her voice unwavering. "You're the ones who made the mistake of underestimating humanity. This is just the beginning of our fight. We don't surrender." Zalgar's smile vanished, replaced by a menacing glare. "We will crush you, and when we do, your planet will be reduced to ashes." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the crew of the Intrepid staring at each other in silence. Zalgar's words hung in the air like a storm cloud, ominous and full of promise. But there was no fear in Riker's heart. This was the moment humanity had prepared for, the moment when their strength would truly be tested. "Admiral," Paddle spoke up, her voice tinged with concern. "We've seen their power. How can we fight a fleet that big?" Riker turned to face her crew, a fire burning in her eyes. "We fight because we have no choice. The galaxy may think we're insignificant, but they'll learn differently. We're not going to sit back and wait for them to strike. We're going to take the fight to them. We'll find their weaknesses and hit them where it hurts." "But how?" Dawson asked, his voice uncertain. "We don't even know where their fleet is." Riker's lips curled into a confident smile. "Then we'll make them show us. We'll find them, and we'll end this." She turned her attention back to the view screen, where the stars twinkled in the distance. Earth's fleet had delivered a devastating blow to the invaders. But now it was time to track down the heart of the enemy and destroy it before they could regroup. "We've taken the first step, but there's much more ahead. Prepare yourselves, everyone. We're going to finish what we started." With that, the human fleet began its relentless pursuit, their hearts steeled for the long war that lay ahead. The invasion had been a test, and humanity had passed. Now, the true battle would begin. The aliens had underestimated them before. They wouldn't make that mistake again. As Riker looked out at the vast expanse of space, she knew this was only the beginning of a war that would shape the future of humanity and its place in the galaxy. It was time for Earth to rise, and the galaxy would never forget the name of the fleet that changed everything. The final confrontation. The Intrepid cruised silently through the void of space, its engines purring steadily as Earth's fleet navigated toward the unknown. Every ship in the fleet was on high alert, their weapons ready, their crews tense with anticipation. Riker stood at the command console, her eyes scanning the distant stars, calculating their trajectory toward the heart of the alien armada. The words of Stalagar still echoed in her mind, reminding her of the gravity of what they were about to face. The Galactic Council had underestimated Earth, and now humanity would make them regret it. The shadow of the coming storm loomed large, but Riker could feel a calm determination settling over her crew. They were ready. A new voice came over the intercom, cutting through the tense silence. "Admiral, we've got a contact. Massive fleet signatures detected, multiple capital ships." Riker's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The alien forces had gathered their full strength. The time for stealth was over. Now it was a fight for survival, and for Earth's future. "Prepare for battle," Riker ordered, her voice calm but firm. "Signal all ships to engage at maximum firepower." Within moments, the fleet shifted positions, their massive ships angling toward the alien fleet. The vastness of space seemed to close in as they approached the enemy, whose ships now filled the view screen, dark and intimidating against the backdrop of the stars. The alien fleet was even larger than they had imagined. Hundreds of warships, each far more powerful than the last wave they faced, glistened in the darkness, their weapons poised for destruction. The Galactic Council had sent their best, and they were coming for Earth. "Commander Patel, what's our status?" Riker asked, her gaze locked on the approaching enemy. "Energy levels at 90%, Admiral," Patel replied, her hands flying across the console. "We've made the necessary adjustments to our shields, but we'll need to move fast. The enemy outnumbers us." "We don't need numbers to win," Riker said, her voice filled with unshakable confidence. "We have strategy. We know how to fight, and we've got humanity's might behind us. We're going to take them down, one ship at a time." The fleet readied their weapons. The first volley of shots fired, streaking through the stars, illuminated the dark void like a thunderstorm. The alien ships responded in kind, their energy weapons blazing toward Earth's fleet. It was a battle of unmatched ferocity, a dance of death among the stars. In the chaos, Riker's thoughts were clear. This wasn't just a war for Earth. It was a war for every planet that had ever been oppressed, every species that had been silenced by the might of the Galactic Council. Earth was humanity's home, but it had become something more, the symbol of resistance, the spark of rebellion. The Intrepid rocked violently as it took a direct hit from an alien plasma blast. Riker gritted her teeth but held steady. "Damage report," she barked. "Shields are holding, Admiral," Paddle replied. "Minor hull breach on Deck 7, but we're still operational." Riker nodded, turning her focus back to the battlefield. They couldn't afford to waste any time. The enemy was relentless, and Earth's fleet had already sustained damage. But Riker knew the heart of their enemy, the flagship, a massive behemoth that controlled the alien armada. Destroy it, and the rest would crumble. "Target the flagship," Riker ordered. "All firepower on that ship. Make it our priority." With a roar, the fleet turned as one, their weapons focusing on the massive flagship. It fired back with unrelenting fury, but Earth's ships dodged and weaved through the blasts, using their superior maneuverability to close the distance. "Admiral, we've taken out 2 destroyers," Dawson reported, "but the flagship's shields are still holding strong." Riker clenched her fists. This wasn't going to be easy, but she had faith in her crew, in humanity's will to survive. The battle wasn't over yet. "Deploy the new missile payload," Riker ordered. "Target their main reactors. We end this now." With precision, the missiles launched, streaking across the battlefield. The alien flagship fired in retaliation, but it was too late. The missiles hit their mark, breaching the flagship's shields and striking at its heart. The massive warship began to crack and shudder, its powerful engines failing. A mighty explosion erupted, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The alien flagship, once the symbol of invincibility, was now nothing more than a burning wreck. The alien fleet faltered as their command ship fell. "All units, focus fire on remaining enemy ships," Riker commanded, her voice strong. "Let's finish this." The tide of battle had turned. Earth's fleet, wounded but resolute, pressed on, cutting through the remnants of the alien forces. The once mighty armada fell apart as Earth's ships pushed forward with unrelenting force. The final blows were struck, and one by one, the alien ships were destroyed or surrendered. The battle was over. As the last of the enemy ships exploded in a fiery cloud, the crew of the Intrepid let out a collective sigh of relief. But there was no celebration. The victory was hard-earned, and the cost had been high. The fleet had taken heavy losses, and many brave souls would not return home. But humanity had proven something essential that day. They were not to be underestimated. Riker stood at the command center, looking out at the remnants of the battle. The galaxy would remember the name of Earth and the victory that had changed everything. Humanity had fought back. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake by underestimating them, and now they would pay the price for it. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity rose from the shadows of Jupiter to strike with unyielding fury. The war wasn't over yet, but Earth had proven one thing: humanity was a force that would not be silenced.